Brief History of Mexico Independence Era, 1808 to 1829.
The century began with a profound crisis of legitimacy at the heart of the Spanish Empire. In 1808, Napoleon forced the Spanish royals to abdicate, sparking a global struggle for sovereignty. Local leaders argued that in the king's absence, power reverted to the people of New Spain. Conservative Spaniards, fearing local autonomy, staged a violent coup to depose the viceroy. Primo de Verdad became a martyr, dying in prison after calling for popular sovereignty. In the town of Dolores, a radical priest began plotting for a new social order. His famous Grito summoned a massive congregation to fight for independence and equality. Thousands joined a disorganized but unstoppable march toward the capital. A horrific massacre of defenders occurred as the rebels stormed the city's granary. Despite a tactical victory, Hidalgo hesitated and ordered a fateful retreat from the capital. Superior training allowed the royalists to crush the core of the insurgent army. The rebellion's first leaders were captured in the north and executed as traitors. Morelos, a mixed-race priest, took up the torch with a clearer strategic vision. He traded Hidalgo's massive mob for a small, highly effective guerrilla force. Morelos achieved fame by holding out against a massive royalist blockade at Cuautla. Prominent young leaders like Victoria joined Morelos during his southern triumphs. Morelos convened a national congress to design the political future of a free Mexico. He presented 23 points that outlined his dream for a sovereign nation. The document explicitly renounced all allegiance to the Spanish crown and Ferdinand VII. Morelos demanded the absolute abolition of slavery and the racial caste system. Mexico's first constitution was ratified in 1814, though it could not be implemented. He sacrificed his own safety to ensure the survival of the insurgent Congress. In late 1815, the servant of the nation was captured and executed. With his death, the organized insurgency fragmented into isolated guerrilla bands. Guerrero emerged as the most tenacious leader of the remaining southern resistance. Other leaders, like Victoria, survived for years in the most rugged terrain. The Spanish government attempted to end the war by offering amnesty to rebels. Guerrero's own father was sent by the viceroy to beg him to surrender. He replied with a phrase that defined a nation: "The fatherland is first." A young Spanish liberal arrived from Europe to help the Mexican cause. His expedition was a transnational alliance of those who detested Ferdinand's tyranny. Mina won impressive tactical victories, but his forces were steadily worn down. His brief, meteoric career ended with his capture in late 1817. Though executed, his daring incursion forced the royalists to divert critical resources. By 1819, the viceroy reported to Spain that the revolution was finally dead. Yet the spark of independence remained alive in a few defiant mountain strongholds. A sudden military coup in Spain forced the king to accept a liberal constitution. Mexican conservatives now feared that liberal Spain would strip away their privileges. They turned to Iturbide, a brilliant former royalist officer, to lead their movement. Ordered to destroy Guerrero, Iturbide instead began secret negotiations for an alliance. Two bitter enemies forged a pragmatic partnership to end the 11-year war. On February 24, 1821, they proclaimed the Plan of the Three Guarantees. The plan promised independence, a religious monopoly, and equality for all residents. Their unified force rapidly collapsed the remaining pillars of royal government. He designed the tricolor flag to symbolize religion, independence, and unity. Odunohu realized the colony was lost and met Iturbide to negotiate peace. The Treaty of Córdoba formally recognized Mexico as an independent nation. On September 27, 1821, 3 centuries of Spanish colonial rule finally ended. In the absence of a European monarch, Iturbide was proclaimed emperor. He was crowned as Agustín I on July 21, 1822, in a lavish ceremony. At its birth, the first Mexican empire was the largest in Spanish America. Political conflict immediately escalated over the delineation of executive and legislative powers. Claiming a conspiracy against him, Iturbide dissolved the Congress in October 1822. General Santa Anna launched a rebellion, calling for the restoration of the Republican uprising. Old insurgent heroes like Victoria lent their prestige to the Republican uprising. Most of the army defected to a new plan that demanded local home rule. Within weeks, the provinces withdrew their obedience from the central imperial government. Isolated and without support, Iturbide was forced to reopen the dissolved Congress. On March 19, 1823, he abdicated the throne rather than provoke civil war. The former emperor departed for exile, leaving behind a nation seeking its identity. Returning from exile in 1824, Iturbide was captured and shot as a traitor. A new constitution was adopted, establishing Mexico as a federal republic of states. Victoria was sworn in, becoming the only leader to complete his full term. In 1825, the last Spanish stronghold in the country was finally forced to surrender. A global financial crisis in 1825 left the new government bankrupt and unstable. Anti-Spanish sentiment led to harsh laws expelling thousands of native-born Spaniards. Guerrero, the old guerrilla, assumed the presidency amidst intense political polarization. Using emergency powers, Guerrero signed a decree to finally end slavery in Mexico. Spain made one final attempt to reconquer Mexico from their base in Cuba. The invaders were trapped in the port and decimated by yellow fever. Santa Anna achieved national hero status by crushing the final Spanish expedition. Spain signed a capitulation that effectively signaled the end of their imperial dream.